A Max, seu streaming queridinho, veio aqui no seu podcast pra saber. Você curte reality aventureiro ou prefere um conteúdo mais emocionante? Seja lá qual for seu preferido, tem na Max. Os realities que você ama, como Quilos Mortais, agora em versão 100% brasileira. E tem novidade, Sobrevivência Extrema vai ser o seu novo vício pra maratonar. Tem Largados e Pelados, Masterchef, Operação Fronteira e muito mais conteúdo brazuca pra ver. Vida real pra todos os gostos é na Max.
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked up by the Lions, coming back right side 25, picks up a block at the 30, at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right, Stafford throws deep, got a man out there, end zone, caught, touchdown, Detroit Lions, Marvin Jones.
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? It is the show after the draft. I mean, the draft is my favorite event of the year. There's a huge lead up. We are here after talking Detroit Lions football. I mean, we got a packed show. We're going to talk about some of the picks. We might have a couple teasers for you. We're going to get into Grifka and my favorite draft pick, our worst pick. We're going to tell you who's going to be the sleeper of this draft class. We're going to talk running back value and strategy. I mean, I want to get Grifka's thoughts on the Lions defense, their plan, their approach, all the different things we got going. Should be a fun show, but the draft will be our focus. It's ended. We're moving forward now, but we got to introduce the man of the show, the guy that brings in all of our audience, the guy that the people love on Twitter, at GrifkaDKC. Grifka, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, just happy to be back talking about the Lions draft picks right here. That was a pretty exciting weekend. I thought the NFL did a nice job of putting that draft on and getting it televised the way they did.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I mean, you were a fan of good old Raj sitting there for about 5 picks in his suit coat, and then he was in his cordigan sweater vest, and then he was in his lounging in his chair like it was a Saturday night with a whiskey, and then he was in a Fruit of the Looms tea on whatever it was Saturday. I mean, I thought it was odd. I mean, I'm still hold on, let me see if I've got a little music for my next comment. I think that's not Raj's house, Grifka. I mean, if this guy makes 40 mil and he's got that crappy of a man cave basement with 2 32-inch TVs and one 40-incher in the middle, I mean, we got issues. I think he rented somebody's old Victorian household and said, hey, can I use this for a couple days? I got to look like a human being. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely thought it was maybe a setup at the NFL headquarters, like, here, make this room look like my basement, and they put like a helmet in there, like, oh, this is my poker table. It's like, man, you don't play poker, you know that. You don't play poker in your basement. So it's just yeah, I kind of got the same feeling right there. It's just like, yeah, that's, could be, so much better, for the man who runs like the most popular sport in the world, or second most.
And not make it look like my basement. Make me look like the common man. Make me look relatable, even though I'm a complete, jabron across the board. Make me a human here for a couple days. So, anyway, that's
he was gonna whoop out a Bush Light and crack it and drink it while he's announcing somebody's name, the draft pick or something.
Right. I thought that was funny. I thought him mispronouncing names was funny. I thought all the other weird gimmicks they did just got in the way. Here's my issue. I know we got a million things to talk about, but so the draft coverage this year, they didn't have any of the hoopla of being out in Vegas and people in suits and walking up and hugging the commish. Like, I thought this year was the worst quality of like trade info, or like somebody would get picked and it would literally be 45 minutes before they get to that selection. It'd be like an hour later and they'd be like, we'd be on pick 66, 67. They'd be like, so at pick 35, the Detroit Lions. It's like, why are we on like a 2-hour delay? I mean, I thought that was crazy. Like I say, every trade, they would never announce details of anything. You would never get, every blue moon, Adam Schefter would wake up and give you some type of details. So it was like, well, why is it so hard? Like the minute a trade is done, we need to know the details and who moved up and for what. Not like an hour later from Adam Schefter and his, make-believe office as well. It's craziness to me.
Yeah, I also like because they had so many college players, like a camera in their home. So after like they were picked, it's like it was obviously on the delay. So it looks like after their pick, like they're just like sitting there, like they're not even happy.
Right.
And then it's like they almost like a director comes like, okay, you just got picked. Now everybody jump up and down and look like it's a great thing. Yeah, it's
right.
like the funniest thing at first. Just like, yeah, so and so's picked by this team, and they show like the family, they're just like sitting there, and like, oh, okay, I'm picked. And then like they go to a commercial, or they go to like who's ever doing the telecast on ABC or ESPN. And then they come back and they show it again, and like the family's jumping up and down and partying, and it's just like. Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Timing delays, big issues across the board, and like to that point, what about CeeDee Lamb snagging his phone from his boo? That was a tremendous moment. She tried to like grab his celly for a second. He snatched that up like it was a third down pass. It was unbelievable. And then what about Mama whoever who was like always yelling at people? Like I saw a couple times where like you're only supposed to have 6 people or less at the house, and like the minute they found out it was a pick, like 40 people coming out the back room and Mama being like, get back. Like, it was just so many odd things going on across the board with this draft. Well, and like people trying to skirt the rules.
Jerry Jones, and at one point I was like texting Chuck, and I'm like, why do they keep touching Jerry Jones? They're like, he's checking for a pulse. He's just like sitting there.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, Jerry, you okay? You okay there?
Here's my issue with Jerry Jones. Like, don't you think it's a horrible decision to on a virtual draft go virtually draft out on a yacht in what seemed to be like the lower bowel area? Like, I mean, I know he's probably got the hookup there, but it's like if any place is going to go out of signal, it's probably in the bowels of your boat in the middle of the whatever body of water he was at. Like, I thought that was an odd choice. Other than the flex move of saying I'm Jared Jones and I got a $250 million yacht, watch me draft from wherever the hell I want.
Yeah, it was just kind of funny though. He's just like sitting there and everybody keeps walking over and like touching his leg and touching his shoulder. It's just like, they're like trying to show the general public that he's actually alive. It's not like a Weekend at Bernie's episode.
Right. Well, they did some great picks, so him and his crew was definitely alive. Let's get down to Lions, Griff. We had a little fun there, and I'm sure other people had some great takes. You can hit us up on Twitter with those funny things that you saw at the draft that we didn't talk about off the top. So you can get at Grifka DKC, or send them to me at Derek Okrie, DEREK Grifka, before we get into our topics for the day, I just want to remind the people a little bit of a crossover promotion here. You made your debut on Believe, that's spelled BLEAV, in Lions, my other podcast that drops on Monday mornings. We did a Sunday roundtable where we got Logan Lamorandier, yourself, and Paul from Tampa all on to let me fire questions at you guys about each pick. You gave your opinions. We had a couple debates. We had some really good content there, so people want to check that out. I urge you to do so. I thought that was a great show. Good content there. But we'll get into the picks today as well. Give a little bit more general, and if you want the details, you can definitely go back and listen to Believe in Lions. So, Grifka, I'm going to run them down here, and then I want your takes, your hot takes on a couple of these players. So, at 3 overall, the Lions took Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. 35, they went with DeAndre Swift, running back from Georgia. At 67 in the 3rd round, they took Julian Okwara, Romeo Okwara's brother, from Notre Dame. He's a linebacker / rush end. 75, they went with Jonah Jackson out of Ohio State, interior guard. They double-dipped that at 121 with Logan Stenberg, the real nasty guard from Kentucky. I'm looking here, he's 23 years old, which is surprising. So is this next pick that everybody is getting on board with, gaining some steam. 166 overall. Quintez Cephas, one of Grifka's all-name name players. I guarantee it in this 2020 draft. He's the wide receiver from Wisconsin. 172, they went with Jason Huntley, the running back out of New Mexico. And we've got the last two picks. 197, John Panissini, defensive tackle, nose tackle out of Utah, and then finished up at 235 with Jashawn Cornell out of Ohio State, a defensive tackle with more rush ability. I mean, I'll give my thoughts on it, but pick out a couple guys and kind of say what you liked, what you didn't for the people.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to start with their first-round pick, Jeff Okudah. I mean, it was obviously the biggest need on the team. Best cornerback. I know a lot of people don't like taking cornerbacks that high. They don't think they're game changers. And I mean, Jeff Okudah's not Deion Sanders, but he's a really good cornerback. I mean, was like no pass interference in college. You know, he plays good tight man coverage. He did in the Big Ten. It's the biggest need. I was very happy with that pick. I know a lot of people wanted, go with the, defensive tackle, defensive end, something like that. Since even with, what's his name? Chase Young being gone, they were still looking for like another defensive end, or even Simmons. I once again still would have preferred Simmons, but I was happy with the Okudah pick. Really like that one. Another pick I liked was Jonah Jackson. I mean, I know we've debated this on prior shows, and they've had so many guards in camp, and they even signed a couple. But still, Jonah Jackson, he's I think he's going to be good at for the run game. He's not a mauler, going to be pushing guys into the third level, but he's going to do enough to create space, and he's pretty decent pass blocker, so they'll need that as well. Jason Huntley, to be honest with you, that was a head scratcher. Never heard of the guy. I know it's like he went to learn later. He went to New Mexico State. The guy's pretty fast, but I know you talked about this on the Believe podcast. How they showed all these highlights of him just running around guys, and they played in a pretty weak league. But New Mexico State, they're a pretty bad football team. So I don't know where they got these highlights of this guy, because New Mexico State had maybe one or two wins last year. They're generally a pretty bad team. So even if it was the only guy on the field, they still didn't beat anybody. So. And I know bad football teams can have good players, so I know he's fast and maybe he's a kicker like that, but I don't know if he's going to break the rotation of the backfield. Those were my biggest three. I mean, the last two guys was Panissini, Cornell. Don't know too much about Panissini because Leaky Fotu is the main guy out there in Utah. A lot of defensive tackle. Everybody talking about defensive tackle, and then Cornell. I thought he just pretty much underperformed his whole time at Ohio State. I just remember he was a big-time recruit, and it just seemed like he never really did anything. He never really panned out for how he got recruited nationally. And Ohio State produces a lot of good talent, and with him just kind of being totally unseen, unmentioned, that's just kind of I think it's just a big school pick right there is what that pick was.
All right, so you hit on quite a few there. I mean, I'll take some of the other ones. I thought it was a bold move, an exciting move at 35 to take DeAndre Swift. He's 21 years old, out of Georgia. We're going to talk about him in a bit later, as I really got some stats, some figures, some interesting things about the whole running back position and how people are attacking it and how people talk about it nowadays. But it was between him and Epineza for me. I had a couple other names in there, defensive tackles or defensive players that I had considered, but when they read that card off, I was really excited because I feel like he's a tremendous fit for what they currently have. I think he adds longevity in that running back room. He gives us some 1-2 punch. He gives us ability to go into pretty much every Sunday knowing that we're either going to have him carry on or both, as well as some depth and some guys that can still develop. So that was exciting for me. I get it that people would love to wait 2-3 rounds later and get, a good player, but you weren't going to get Swift type quality. And I thought the value was there. He was BPA at the time, made it really good. I mean, same thing with Julian Okwara. I feel like everybody forgot about him based on his injury and the fact that he's there at 67 overall. He fits a position the Detroit Lions need. His brother's on the team. That's going to help with the acclimation process. I know I heard Bob Quinn. He had a great interview on 97.1 this morning and got into trades and lots of detail. But when they asked him about Julian Okwara, he said, basically from the time they took Swift, they were keeping him at mind, but didn't think there was any chance he'd be there at 67 when he was. It was pretty easy selection, he said. The two guards I'm looking here right now are both 23 years old, which worries me. Anytime you're up there in age to some degree, it sort of cuts down. But at that position, you can play a bit longer, so it's not a huge concern. Stenberg to me is a guy that's got a lot of pubs since they drafted him based on his mentality, but I think that you got to sort of take a wait and see approach. I think they did get a pretty good trade down with the Las Vegas Raiders. If you go ahead and look at it, they were picking 3. They dropped all the way down to 15, picked up those extra selections that they had given up to go get Jonah Jackson. So I thought that was pretty good business when you break it down. And it seems like they got a player they really like. The best case scenario would be both those guys come in and start. Now, I'm the positive one on the show, Grifka, but here's a couple of issues I had. So they go ahead and take Quintez Cephas, a guy that me and the Big Hughes had joked about offline before the draft, saying what a crazy name. Is this a guy? He was saying he was his favorite receiver just based on name quality. I was saying, I actually watched a few games, and every time I heard about this Cephas kid, he was jumping over people and making plays. But I felt there were better options on the board. Now, as the draft is concluded, you get all this pub about how good he is and how he's going to do all this stuff from the slot, and they just disregard his speed and whatnot. I'm really curious to see. I would be great if he can be a plug-in player, once some of our current receivers move on, but I got my hesitations. Jason Huntley, I think, is still that pick that there's no way that was value, in my opinion. I don't care what the YouTube shows on him. He's really going to have to blow us out of the water to not only earn a roster spot, but to justify being picked there in the 5th round. We will see what he can bring to the table, but I got lots of questions, and I've seen people on Twitter just going nuts, this guy's going to just revolutionize the team, and he's going to play all these positions and just be a game changer, house caller. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then the last couple picks, again, people trying to get on board with those. They're going Oakley style, trying to sell it to them. And I'm looking at it going you read Pennicini and you hear some good reviews and some, he's a backup nose tackle. People, you can't make him out to be a ton more than that. And same with Cornell. It's kind of hey, if you bring some to the table, great, but I don't see too many 235 picks overall that are just blowing things up. So we'll see what happens. I do think it was a good draft just based on those, first 5 picks in general. And again, I'm willing to jump on board with the Cephas pick, but some of these, people just going crazy after the fact. And it's kind of I just don't see it in a couple of these based on who was there and, who I consider was just a better player at the time.
Yeah, I have to, I'm going to agree with you on what you said. So I'm just going to leave it at there and not try to piggyback on your answer.
Perfect, man. We've come a long way on this show, Grifka. You just agree. Let me hit the bell. We keep it moving. Let's do this before we hit our break. So we've named them off. We've given our takes. People want to hear the whole back and forth. Go listen to Believe in Lions. You can find that on any podcast platform. Please, for the Detroit Koolaid Cast, we continue to grow every show that we do. We have had a lot of fun when you guys will reach out on Twitter and say a gimmick line or ask us about football or say how much you like listening to the show. That's great stuff. So keep that up, everybody. But before we hit our break and then get into our topics after, Grifka, what was your favorite pick out of the ones we talked about?
Out of the ones we talked about, gosh, it's almost to say the first round pick would be almost the 2 easiest one to take. It's yeah, I think it's the easiest one. But I am. That's going to be my favorite pick right there. That was they didn't overthink it. I know everybody would have liked to trade down. You probably still could have got him a couple spots if you were able to trade down, but according to Bob Quinn, nobody made a real solid offer, real serious offer. So they didn't overthink it. They took the guy that they needed the most. And I still think 3, I don't think that's a very big reach. A lot of people, like I said, don't like it, but I'm very happy with that pick.
Yeah, I mean that's a Grifka answer. Like the top 3 pick, how could you really mess it up? To be honest, you had your heart set on this guy from months ago, so it's very easy just to roll out of bed, turn in the card, lazy boy scouting 101. I mean, I came around on Jeff Okudah just saying, like, when you look at the roster, it seemed like he made the most sense. Now, I'm not a guy that loves to just draft based on let's plug a hole right this second, but like I say, the Lions are trying to win right now, and they haven't drafted a dang corner high, and I don't even know how long, probably since I've been a Lions fan, to be honest. I can't even remember when they've taken one in the first round. That was before my day. So it was about dang time, and I think you'll see the results of that, because a lot of these people that want to wait and take these late round flyers on people, like, you need holes plugged, or you need premier players at premier positions, you might want to take them high in the draft, because those usually work out quite a bit better. So I think we got ourselves a corner for a long time. He's only going to get better and better. So, I like the player, not necessarily your take, because it's the easy way. I mean, if you're talking about my favorite pick, to kind of come off where you're at with that, I mean, again, the easy route for me would be to say DeAndre Swift. Oh, baby. But I won't do that. I already did that on other shows. You can actually go listen to a show on the Detroit Koolaid Cast feed where I was live, Grifka. I was live on the mic while you were probably sleeping or out at a function. I was talking about options. I was talking about DeAndre Swift. I was talking about all types of options. And when they read off the card, I went crazy. But I won't do that again. My favorite pick, to be honest, now looking at it after the fact, I'm torn a little bit between Okwara and Jonah Jackson. I almost want to go with Jonah Jackson because I feel like he's a plug-and-play left guard. I feel like he's a pass protector. I feel like he's a little bit nasty in regards to talking junk, being able to get people fired up, and being able to maybe put our O-line, take it from like where we thought it was really falling off to being able to move it right back up the charts as being an above average to possibly, decently better than good offensive line. So I really like what that kid brings to the table. But there's a lot of intriguing picks here that'll be interesting. What's your worst pick, Grifka? I know this is usually your favorite, where you can rag on somebody or go negative or say why the Lions aren't good, and then when the player balls out, you can say, "See, I told you so. I knew he'd be good." Who's your worst pick right now, or a pick you didn't like?
Logan Stenberg.
That's your boy. What do you mean? You love this guy.
Yeah, he's great. We've heard enough of other guys. Oh, this guy's got a mean streak. He's nasty. Yeah, he's a mauler. He's this. He's that. Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, okay, I got it. It's like he's a mean guy and whatever. He took a lot of penalties at Kentucky, and Kentucky was an okay football team down there in the SEC. And he's a mauler. He's this, but he doesn't pass block very well. I think he sets too high. I think it's going to allow him to get pushed around. At Kentucky, their quarterbacks are more of a running quarterback, so it wasn't that pure pocket passer game. And let's face it, Matt Stafford's not going to be the guy running the quarterback draw. I know he ran it a couple times last year to our surprise, but that's not going to happen all that often. So Logan Stenberg pick, considering they just took a guard the pick before, that was my least favorite pick.
Oh my goodness, this is usually Grifka's gimmick, but I'll do it. Hey, everybody out there, you need to go back in the archives of the Detroit Koolaid Cast and pull up the Grifka 45-minute podcast on strictly interior offensive linemen, where I remember he strictly talked about Logan Stenberg. I'd be curious if you had that similar take in your pod as you do now, because I don't know about other people, but I fell asleep after the first 5 minutes of that show when you're talking about interior linemen and trying to go into detail like you're reading off somebody's scouting card. But I'm curious because you brought up that name. I remember the next show I beat you up. I was like, Logan Stenberg. I mean, he's way down the guard list or the overall prospect. I'm not taking him in whatever it was, the 4th, 5th round. Here he does go in the 4th round, and you hate it. That shocks me. But like I said, maybe you did beat him up in the show. I can't remember, but interesting.
Well,
I thought that'd been one of your favorites.
And I know at one point he was kind of targeted as a 4th rounder, and I just remember it's just like, yeah, a 4th round, I guess it'd be okay, but I thought he was more of a 5th round guy. So, but that's just me. Like I said, I think he sets up a little too high, and it seems like there's points where the Lions I know they want to become the running team, like run the ball a lot, but there's times where he's just pass blocking ability is just not that great. And that's where, and I just don't think he's very good at it. So, and it's one of those things where he just never really had to do it in college. And if you're just going to draft a guy based on his first thought is he's nasty. Yeah. Okay. Good luck.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. I think the Lions actually think that's one of their best picks based on his mentality, where they got him, and by taking 2 guards, I feel like they think they can almost plug in both guys or plug in one and let the other guy compete, and then actually have, like I say, that really beefed up O-line where a lot of us were thinking it was in shambles. Now it could be really solid if Hal Vaitai plays well. These 2 guys come in and either win both jobs or compete, and then you got Ragnow and Decker in there. Could be a big help for our overall team. I mean, if I got to say worst pick, I already ragged on Jason Huntley quite a bit. I mean, that's obviously my worst pick based on a lot of reasons. I mean, the other one that makes me shake my head is the Cephas pick. Now, I'm not going to call that. It's hard for me to call that my worst pick because the more I hear and read and see all these reports, even Gil Brandt, I think it was, says this guy was so high on his list and he was this and he was that and he's going to be a great player. Griff could get this. This is usually your gimmick too. Gil Brandt compared Quintez Cephas to Michael Irvin. Oh, baby. He literally said that with a straight face. I don't know how Gil Brandt is on Twitter, but it's not one of those fake accounts like you bring on the show with your rumor and innuendo. It's his real account. You can go find that. He said he's got Michael Irvin qualities, and I thought that was craziness. But then the more you hear about him, you're like, maybe this guy is going to be like our number 2 moving forward. So I don't know. We'll see. But like I say, worst pick. I mean, it's between Cephas and Huntley. It just depends sort of how they play. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be Huntley at the end of the day when he's probably cut before the year. And then we wasted a 5th rounder on the speed guy out of nowhere. And it's just like, yeah, we'll see what he can bring. Real quick, Grifka, I know we've been going a little bit long on these. How about a sleeper pick? One of these picks that is a little off the radar or not the top couple that you think might overperform. You'd be like, man, what a great pick in the next couple years when you look back at it. Cord.
Okay, so the pick I think is going to perform better than where he's at is the one we just talked about and we laughed about. And that was Quintez Cephas. I mean, Okuda, Damon Arnett, they said he was probably the toughest wide receiver to face in the Big Ten. I think he's going to play a little more of the slot. I don't think he's an outside guy. So Danny Amendola, can take him under his wing, show him how to, play the position, what they'll really look for in the pros. And with the slot, you don't necessarily need to be the fastest guy because we all saw from the Cephas 40 time, he's got a 4.7, which, isn't fast at all. But we've also seen, slot wide receivers not be the quickest guys, have, be good players in the NFL. So I'll go with Quintez Cephas.
All right. I hope so. I mean, I know this is a fan take, but I know we're deep into football, but I know for most Lions fans out there, it would really be fun if the running back and the wideout would really, play really well, give people something to hang their hat on as far as a good Bob Quinn draft, something they can easily see and those guys can perform and be excited about. I mean, when you're talking about a surprise type player, or somebody that might be a sleeper for me. I mean, this is going to be kind of nerdy, but I just think the John Pennicini pick, based on some of the things I've read, Utah being such a good defense, him being what seems to be a really good scheme fit, even if he is just that backup nose tackle, I think that could be a player that could surprise people, especially because I think it was on Twitter where he said he's going to be the player in the draft that most people slept on, the most people forgot about, that most people will be surprised about. So if I'm going to pick my sleeper pick and he says he's the most slept on player, I got to go with John Pennicini, defensive tackle, Utah, hoping that he can bring some to table. And again, you've heard me say it on the show. There's something about having Danny Shelton and a guy like this in the middle. Just their backgrounds, their body build, their nastiness, their ability to kind of plug and pressure people, I think could really be something we're looking for. And we still need some of that pass rush either there or on the outside. But that'd be my sleeper. Grifko, we talked about a lot. We've had some laughs here in the beginning. I think we could take a break, as you often say, a pause for the cause, and come on back. And people hang with us. We're going to come back and talk about 2 main topics. I want to throw some stats and some numbers and some dollars and cents at Grifka in regards to running backs. And then we also want to talk about the Lions D a little bit. before we get up out of here. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Quando você ouve um podcast, está procurando entretenimento ou conhecimento, certo? E se você procura por desempenho e qualidade para o seu veículo, qual a sua escolha? Os amortecedores Motorcraft têm tecnologia Ford e oferecem uma condução suave para uma viagem tranquila e segura. Escolha a confiabilidade dos amortecedores Motorcraft, válidos para a linha K, Fiesta, EcoSport e muito mais. Quando terminar seu podcast, é só acessar a loja da Ford no Mercado Livre e experimentar a diferença.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers, we are back from the break. We really appreciate you listening to our sponsors. We appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. We appreciate you getting to us on Twitter. Again, bug Grifka all day long. He's at GrifkaDKC. I know he loves it when I send him pictures of Baker Mayfield, or when I get after him about some gimmick that he does on the show, or I nag him like I do on the show and he takes it personally and then yells at me on Twitter. Please do that all day, every day to him. And then, as you guys do, like my stuff, send me fun football questions, interact with me on Twitter. We'll have a few laughs. The Twitter game to me is like, I get very few negative people, very few people that frustrate me. It's just a fun space to talk football and to be a Lions fan and to give them this content. I think people really like our show, Grifka, so that's been fun. Grifka, I want to talk some running backs. I want to get into it about this whole idea that the running back is devalued. You can't take one high. I know Pro Football Focus, as well as some other publications, really kind of knocked us on this DeAndre Swift pick because they're just dead set. I mean, your boy, the guy that you are most closely related to when it comes to scouting, Mel Kiper Jr. I mean, this guy says he would never, ever, ever take a running back in the first round, no matter what. Doesn't matter if they're in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't matter if he knew ahead of time what they would do. He would never do it. I'm here to disprove that today. So, Grifka, before I kick it to you, if you had to guess, give me the top 3 running backs names and then what you think their average salaries are in general. I want to see where you're at with this.
Oh, the top 3 running backs? Like, gosh. Just right off the top of my head.
Just a player and however many million per. This isn't hard. Come on. Couple names, couple contract numbers for 2020. What do these guys make?
Oh, I thought you wanted me to name who are the top paid running backs now, who I think, what they get and stuff like that.
Yeah,
okay.
I want to know the top 3, but you know who they are, and then just give me some general value. If you don't know the contracts, I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Okay, well, I mean, Zeke Elliott is probably number 1. I know he gets paid. You got just fat cash down in Dallas. Probably signed the contract on Jera's yacht, or at least one of them. He's probably making I don't even know what, man, 18 mil a year, something like that. Let's see, that's be one of them. Another one, let's see.
This isn't a quiz, Grifka. Do you want me to just give you the totals?
Todd Gurley gets paid bank too.
I know you like being the intellectual on the show.
Paid a lot. What's that?
I said, I know you like being the intellectual on the show, but this isn't a big quiz. If you want me to just give you the totals, I can. But Zeke Elliott's number 2, which you've named off. He's an average salary of 15 mil. Todd Gurley is not in the top echelon. He's all the way down at about 10 right now and makes an average of only 5 over his new. Well, that's his new contract. You obviously know he got cut and sent to Atlanta, so he's way down now. Yeah. You want me to give you the other top 2 so we can keep this moving, or do you want to take another guess?
Yes, please.
Christian McCaffrey, Grifka, if you'd watch NFL Network every once in a while, he just got crazy contract and got paid. He's making over $16 million a year for the next basically 5 seasons. And then Lev Bell is up there. He, for the next couple seasons, makes around 13. So you got 16, you got 15, you got 13. You've got David Johnson at 13, and then there's a drop-off down to 10, down to 8. It works its way down from there. So this is my point. This is the way I want to bring it up. So, the top guy, and these guys are all, second contract type guys or whatever, are making that crazy money. As you work your way down, you're gonna find the bargains. The Austin Eckler that makes 6. Kareem Hunt makes 3. Let me just see who else I got here. Mark Ingram is an older running back who's done good. He makes about 5. And then you start working your way down to the young guys. Rashad Penny, makes less than 3. It hasn't really done anything. I'm trying to find another good name here. Where's Dalvin Cook at these days? Derrick Henry, is up at 10. Anyway, the point is, Saquon Barkley is, makes just under 8. So this is my point. So these guys make this big, either second contract, or if you take them really high in the draft, they make crazy money. If you take them later, they don't make anything. But if you take them, I don't know, in the second round at number 35 overall, I've got the numbers here. DeAndre Swift makes, at 35, he's on a 4-year contract. A total value, Grifka, total value of that 4-year deal is less than $9 million. He gets a signing bonus of under $4 million, and his cap hit in 2020. Do you want to take a guess?
It's not that much because it's that early deal.
$1.5 million. So all these penny pinchers out there, all these people that act like, oh, the running back, you can't pay the running back. You can't draft them in the first or second round because of their shelf life. Like, do those numbers right there just totally disprove it, Grifka? Because DeAndre Swift is definitely going to be here for 4+ years. He's definitely going to produce, and he's going to make, if we take 4 years divided by around 8, I mean, I'm no math whiz, but what's that, $2 million on average? I mean, I'm sure once he gets in the later part of the deal, he makes around, 3, 4, maybe at his peak. I don't have all the breakdown in front of me, but I mean, tell me that's not exactly what you'd want to pay a dynamic running back like DeAndre Swift. So I don't think I got to do much more than that than give the crazy numbers that people are paying the top guys, and give numbers like that I think we could expect from DeAndre Swift, even if he's a part-time player, and say, hey, Lions fans, would you pay a talent like DeAndre Swift $2 to $4 million for the next 4 years to have him as part of your football team and to actually be able to run the football? I'm pretty sure we're going to get a big percentage that say yes, and I'm on board with that as well. What say you, Grifsky?
Yeah, I don't know why it seems like the running back position has become, it seems like the most disposable position in football. I mean, when I was a kid, you were looking for the big running back, and even now it seems like teams are like, oh, we need to establish a running game. We got to do this. We want to have a good running game. And when we have the lead late in the game, we want to have that 4-minute offense so we can hold the ball. But then you're right, nobody wants to invest any money in them. Everybody thinks that's the offensive line, and they're more than willing to take if we can just find some guy in the 5th round, because Denver did that for a while. It seemed like they just had the plug-in running back. When Terrell Davis got hurt, they had Mike Anderson run the ball, and some other guy, I can't remember his name, was there for 1 year, and he did really well. And it's like, okay, well, look at Denver does it. Well, Denver had a great offensive line too, and you just can't just plug and play with any running back. So if you're able to get a stud running back like that, I can't see why you don't do that. Now, I'm not looking for that, oh, this guy's, 5'9" and, 150 pounds, but he's so dynamic in college. And, that's not a first round guy. But, Swift is big enough, and what he did, he played in the SEC and he took a few hits, but, he's a little, quick guy. I mean, so, yeah, I'm fine with the pick right there. I just don't understand how it seems like everybody's like, well, you can get good value later. And you're right. Maybe if you're looking to just, churn that guy out, use him up, chew him up, and get rid of him in 2 years, fine. I guess if that's the running game you want, but that's not going to be sustainable, over the long haul.
Grifka, you're the guy on this show that always says, oh, they got cut a couple offensive linemen. What's it, a couple $1 million? Big freaking deal, right? And then you know what that does to me. I mean, it does this.
It drives me freaking bonkers.
So we're literally talking about if DeAndre Swift was a bust, or if he couldn't play, or he got hurt, it's a couple $1 million. Now, I always tell you that every little bit matters in the NFL, which I think it does, but I don't know why people act like this is some big financial commitment, or it's a bad thing because he might not play, 2 decades in the league. I mean, yeah, I get it that you could get an offensive tackle at pick 35 and he might have a 10-year career and he'd be at that same type of money, but I just think when people really look at the dollars and cents, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's not an expensive commitment. You definitely can't go out and get this type of talent, in the free agent market at that price. And like I'm looking at Jeff Okuda's number. Okay, you took him at 3, so his cap hits at $6 million to start. But over the life of his 4 years with a 5th-year option out there as well, 4 years, it's only going to be $21 million. So, again, you're just looking at these fixed contracts at people that are well going to outplay that, like guarantee by year 2, 3, head into year 4. Jeff Okuda is going to be one of those corners that's going to be frustrated that he's not making 17, 20, at 22 at that point, whatever the going rate for a corner is. So I think people got to put it in those buckets and realize that, hey, if you're just applauding the Panthers for paying Christian McCaffrey $16 million over a 5-year span, yeah, I'm sure they can get out of that after 3 or 4 years, but that's $16 million, and we're going to have a new running back in Detroit that's going to make 2. And that's going to be younger. He's going to have a similar type skill set. I know he's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's definitely not a run it up the middle in a cloud of dust type of player. So I think it's, the financial commitment's not bad. I think that the production upside is big. I feel like even if his shelf life is shorter in the short term, it's still worth the investment. Yeah, if you want to roll the dice and think you can get a running back at 172 and just pay him $600K a year, congratulations, go try. But I guarantee I'm going to put Swift up against him, and it's gonna be ridiculous. So Grifka, this is me versus that guy that thinks he can just find a running back later. This is that guy when I am right now promoting the DeAndre Swift pick.
What the hell are you doing?
And this is me having to listen to him on Twitter all day say, oh, I'll wait till the 5th round and I'll get another running back. That's what everybody does in the NFL. I mean, that absolutely does this.
That drives me freaking bonkers.
And then Grifka, I'm looking at these numbers. I'm looking at DeAndre Swift's talent. I'm looking at what the Lions need when it comes to actually being able to run the football for the first time in 20 years. And I think that pick at 35 was simply this.
It's like, duh. It's like, duh. It's like, duh.
I mean, turn it in. DeAndre Swift, pay him $2, $3, $4 million a year over the life of the contract. Give him the football 15 times a game. Throw it to him. Let him pass protect. Let him run. I love it. So, it sounds like we're on the same page. You've sort of been a supporter of taking that running back and putting that to bed. Now you see the numbers, which I know always blow your mind because you don't spend a bunch of time on the financials of the league, and it's like, yeah, it's really important to know what these guys make and know what kind of commitments you're making. Yeah, there's other options you could do, but you can't act like these are big swings and misses. Oh, he took a running back in the 2nd round. How dare you? Okay, he's either going to be really good and outperform his contract, or we're going to be out, $8 million over a 4-year span. I mean, I think we're going to be okay. That's why rookies, and that's why the draft is so amazing, Grifka. Are you on board with me? Do you agree?
That's why I would take that chance as well, especially with where the Lions running game is at right now. And it's not like, it was a total reach for Swift, and people are like, gosh, what are you doing taking him there? I mean, that guy was a first-round talent, mid-first-round talent, and it's like I said, it just seems running back's just a disposable, spot right now, and like nobody wants to take it. So it's like, well, we'd rather bump a guy up who may be, mid-second rounder into the 1st round because we don't want to take a running back, and we'll get that defensive tackle or something. It's like, give me a break.
So basically, you agree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Grifka, let's talk about one more thing, and then we'll get up out of here for this Wednesday edition of the Detroit Koolaid Cast after the draft. Grifka, this is your big, pet peeve thing you hold your hat on. You've deemed the Lions defense horrible. You've talked that Matt Patricia is a terrible football coach. You hate the team, even though you're on a Lions podcast. We get all that. But like when it comes to the 2020 Lions defense, I mean, I want to spend a couple minutes talking about what they've done, sort of some of the players they brought in, but more so like their plan and their approach. I mean, it seems pretty simple, pretty clear that the Lions want to cover when it comes to their corners and their safeties. They want to be able to run fit and pound you with linebackers. They invested in veteran and Patriot types when it comes to knowing the scheme, being able to rush off the edge or maybe cover a little bit with Jamie Collins. And then you've got the front guys. You've got some beef now, I'd say, in the middle with Penasini and Shelton. You've got Nick Williams, who is a somewhat of a wild card. On the edge, you've got Trey Flowers, Okwara, but you still seem to be missing a couple cogs there. When it comes to this approach of pretty much avoiding edge players, not going out and making a big trade, not having these penetrating defensive tackles like Jim Schwartz loved to have. Where are you at with this plan and approach when it comes to the Detroit Lions in 2020? Let's not hear you whine and moan and complain about 2019 and disregard all the injury issues they had.
It looks like it's going to be set up as another bend don't break defense, and those defenses tend to drive me bonkers, if you want to hit that, but they really do, because it just seems that times
Chris,
when
do it live.
Stop.
Sorry to jump in. I couldn't get to the button. Give us a live version of it. It drives me freaking bonkers.
And bend don't break defenses drive me freaking bonkers. They just do.
You got to do the live every once in a while.
It's one of those things where it's like where people complain about that prevent defense at the end of the half or the end of the game, prevents you from winning. And I understand what the bend don't break does. I mean, it's not allowing quick scores, getting behind your defense. I understand all that, and then you bow your back, when you get on your half the field. But it just seems like that's what this defense is going to be set up for again. And they're not going to look to, run a whole lot of blitzes. The pressure, any of that's going to come from the front four, maybe a blitz every once in a while. But it doesn't seem like that's what this defense is set up for. That bringing, jailbreak blitz and, just kind of let, hopefully your defensive backs make the plays. You're going to get a sack here and there. Your linebackers are able to cover the running backs, tight ends, but it's not going to be a high pressure defense.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, again, like I normally do on the show, I kind of disagree with you. I feel like, last year they tried that because they didn't have their healthy bodies up front. I'm much more of a proponent of people have totally forgot about Sean Hand, Austin Bryant. You're looking at some of these other linebackers that have come in or will be coming into their own, Jelani Tavai, Jamie Collins, and now Julian Okwara. I feel like you're going to see a lot more ability to pressure, as well as, their coverage unit is just a lot better. I mean, I haven't heard a ton of people talk about Harmon there on the back end. I know I bring him up all the time I can, not only because of the player, but him being excited to be here, him being that type of safety that we have not had. And I always feel like year 2-3 is kind of where you're going to see that big jump from drafted type players that have talent but maybe haven't played up to their expectations. So I don't see why AO wouldn't ball out. I don't know why Tracy and company wouldn't come around. So I feel like their focus will be on coverage, but I also think that they're going to be able to not only rush, but, cover underneath a lot better. Like we didn't have that coverage linebacker. We didn't have some of these athletes that we can move around and do some things. So I just think overall the defense, when I really look at the roster, I think Logan Lamorandier put out, here's the Lions defense. And I was just going down the list, and it wasn't a bunch of Pro Bowl type, NFL poster guys, but it was like, the names and the ability and the scheme fits and the attitude seemed to look really good, in my humble opinion, as well as I don't know, Grifka, it's kind of a young, hungry team. I don't know, you might call them those be some dogs, Grifka. I think we got some dogs on defense, and I think that everybody's going to see that when we're able to put some pressure packages, but also just cover better. Like just put guys out on the islands and not be able to get roasted and toasted like your boy the Windsock, Mike Ford, or some of these other guys we're throwing out there in this corner. You're just going to roll out Trufant, Okuda and Coleman, and then you're going to have better linebacker core as a whole, and then you're going to have this back end that kind of comes into their own from the safety position. I think it's shaping up nicely to be a surprising defense. I think their approach will change based on health and based on ability to, this will be the third year in this whole build that they've been doing. So don't be surprised if you see Austin Bryant with his hand in the ground coming after people off the edge. Don't be surprised if Okwara gets those third down reps like you talked about recently, that he might be that third down rusher we haven't had. And, maybe Jelani Tavai just takes a hold of that middle linebacker and is a really steady presence in there too. So I'm excited about the defense. I feel like the plan and approach has been a 2-3 year in the making, as well as, how the NFL comes down to injuries. So got to stay healthy and got to get it together. But I think they're a much improved unit on paper. There are some wild cards with a few older type players on the front line and the linebackers. If those guys play average or above average, I think it could be really dynamic. So I'm excited about not only the approach but the plan, and I think that we can do a little bit of this when we're talking about the defense instead of that negative crap you gave us last year.
Drink it in, man.
Grifka, you got anything else for the people?
Nope.
Oh, Detroit Kool-Aid drinkers, Detroit Lions fans, we are through the draft. We tried to give you some review of what happened. We also wanted to have a little fun and dive into the whole running back debate, as well as talk about the defense, give some of our favorite picks, some kind of quick takes on some of these players, most of the players we got into today that we talked about. We'll come back Friday. I know Grifka's going to have a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of things. He'll probably get me all stirred up. I'm sure we'll talk about maybe some remaining holes on this team that we need to fill and other things like that, kind of post-draft. I know Grifka thinks we only get to do one draft show, and then he doesn't know what we're going to talk about for the next 6 months. I mean, we got plenty to talk about despite this crazy world we're in. So we'll do that on Friday and every week, twice a week right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. Don't forget to check out that Believe, BLEAV, in Lions podcast. Lions fans, there's not a ton to do right now. You might as well just hit that subscribe button and listen to both these shows. That's 3 shows a week we're giving you talking Lions football. 2 with Grifsky, the waffle maker, and at least 1 where I can just be solo or have on guests and do what I do, which is love talking football. So drink all that in, enjoy it. We'll be back here on Friday right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. Take care, everybody. We're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions. Drink it in, man.